Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. Oh, good afternoon. Really, it's good evening. I hope everybody's doing well. Doing well in the chaos that we find ourselves in. Mm. I'll link it down at the bottom, but I started streaming on Twitch. If anyone is interested, please give me a follow. I'm trying to grow there as well. My focus is to talk about fitness. I've been streaming workouts and then talk on philosophy while streaming video games, and then also speaking on mental health and plant medicines. So yeah, give me a shout out on there. It'd be great to see people, from here on there, and just be able to, hang out in real time. I'd like that I'm connecting with people through this, but it's not live, right? So so thank you all for being here. I have a lot on my mind today, and I feel that as more and more time goes by, as I take more and more bricks out of the wall that needs to come down, as I peel more and more layers back, as I cut more and more binds, I'm learning more and more that I have to do what I need to do. And I'm saying this with regards to something very specific right now, and it's something that for years and years and years and years I've had hang-ups over, and it's hard for me to put the pin down on what the issue is and where the location is of where it comes from. And for several years now I really haven't felt like myself, and I've talked about cognitive issues and how I don't really feel like I have that much brain power. But there's a couple of things that seem to really help me on a regular basis, but because there's not a whole lot of frameworks around it already, and I'm a paranoid, neurotic person, I find myself second guessing myself in the forays that I'm talking about right now. And I had to have somebody actually tell me, in the world that I'm in when it comes to medicine work and things like that, that I'm an advanced practitioner, and I should really be, trusting myself and my intuition and my discernment and my judgment in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And really, a lot of what I'm doing is part of my path. And so, like, there's this herbal blend that is effectively like a smokable ayahuasca that I like to use at low dose amounts to kind of help me in a psycholytic way with any issues that I might be having. But not only that, there are beneficial aspects of the molecules themselves that lend themselves towards certain types of healing and better functioning. So, for example, they help promote neurogenesis. They're neuroprotective, and they increase neuroplasticity. And with dealing with depression and certain other things that I feel have impacted my neurology, especially at the cognitive level, I need something like that. And maybe I need it more on a regular basis than I want to give myself, that credit for. But where some of the concern arises is around the fact that there are, like we learn from each other, and so there's definitely instances of people that have, been very reckless with some of the substances that I'm talking about. And as a result, they've fried their own brains, or they have just, done themselves a disservice in one way or another. There's people that kind of like burn out from some of these substances. But not only that, there are people that end up falling for their own bullshit in these spaces. Like we're talking about altered states of mind. It's not your everyday pragmatic reality. And so the things that we feel we're receiving from those spaces, we have to put extra discernment to. We can't just say, this is how the universe works because I got it on this plant medicine. It's like, no, how the universe works is probably going to be something that is, in line with elements of what your experience was, but also elements of what your pragmatic reality is. And so, like examples are when I think that for me, it's, this is my thought, but I think that people oversimplify and overgeneralize the totality of reality when we start talking about ideas such as oneness and saying that like everything is the same, all things are one. Where I feel that we're kind of bypassing some of the important parts that we really want to be, hitting on as well if we're trying to be accurate in talking about the totality of reality, right? But because of the felt sense of information that we can receive in these spaces and in these states, and not having, really done the work to notice the elements and the gravity and the effects of conviction, we kind of fall for our own bullshit again, right? And so that's, something that I'm trying to make sure that I don't do in my work with, these plant medicines. So for example, with dimethyltryptamine, there are a lot of people, I'm not saying this happens to everyone, but there are a lot of people that end up kind of developing these like God complexes or these Messiah complexes. And it's a result of, not doing a certain amount of work on themselves outside of the medicine space and thinking that the medicine space is a panacea for everything that they need. And it's like, no, like, again, we have to bring things in from one space and out from another space. We have to pendulate. And so I bring all of this up because I worry about me falling for my own bullshit in that way. And I've been told over and over and over again, like I probably don't have to worry about it because of the work that I've already done in, having this level of discernment. One of the reasons that I have a, very in-depth philosophy that revolves around skepticism is because of a lot of these concerns that I have. There's plenty of times, and we've all witnessed it, where somebody is like super staunch about and very adamant about something, and they won't let it go. And even when shown otherwise through a framework and a paradigm that they can also adhere to, and they just won't let it go. They just have to be right. And I'm trying to avoid that kind of shit because it's not authentic. It's not true to me, right? And like at the end of the day, when we try to seek out so much external truth that we kind of forget that we kind of forget that we need to pay attention to how we're being true with ourselves. So that being said, before I did this video, I decided to give myself some medicine time, right? And it's a very short acting psychedelic, the smokable blend of ayahuasca. So short actually that, there's a point where I decided I'm just going to go ahead and redose and enter back into the space. And that's like big for me because it's something I always want to do and I never do it. And that could be said for a whole lot of different things, and so like this is kind of where I'm talking about, like, we got to do what we got to do. At least for me, I got to do what I got to do. If there are people out there that take, SSRIs or SNRIs every day to help them with, mental health struggles that they might have, and I have treatment resistant depression and also don't trust a lot of SSRIs or SNRIs, but have like a beautiful relationship with these plant medicines that the space they allow access to seems to also want me there. Like, why would I not go with that a bit more and be just mindful and tactful and careful in my use? I add careful on there because with the substances that I'm talking about, there's a kind of a threshold of experience known as the breakthrough. And people seem to be really obsessed with that. And, I understand it. We're creatures that glom on and connect and like attach ourselves so much to novelty. And we pay so much attention to what is the biggest and the best and the most flashy. And of psychedelic experiences, in a lot of regards, a full breakthrough on dimethyltryptamine is going to be one of the, if not the wildest experience of your entire life. And so there's a lot of preoccupation and focus on that level of experience. And we bring some of our bad habits of, like egoism into that, thinking that we need to be trying to, shoot for the moon every single time. and that there's like something to be said about us because we're doing that, you know. There's a whole lot of things to like navigate, but that kind of also attaches to the idea of, you know, the Messiah complex or the God complex that some people tend to develop after certain information that is received from that space. So again, like we have to have like so much discernment, because at the end of the day, nobody knows what's going on, you know. Um, and you know, it's funny that I went on that like aspect of the diatribe, because that was me being avoidant of what I really need to be talking about right now, which is that with this medicine that I've already been told and like shown that I'm an advanced practitioner with, I need to trust myself in what I'm doing and like where I want to go and why I want to do it. Even if I can't put words to it, there's like an intuitive way in which that can be understood by oneself, right? And so I'm like kind of avoiding that. I need to do what I need to do. Like I keep falling down this rabbit hole of justification. And, you know, I do this in the confines of my own room. I feel like I've been dealing, you know, with a lot of cognitive issues. And again, I already spoke to the ways in which this is, you know, neurologically healthy. And so it's about finding the balance to make sure that one doesn't, you know, tread into, say, abuse. But it's funny because I'm nowhere near that, but I'm paranoid. And so the thought comes up. And so it's just like a lot of these loops. So I thank everybody for witnessing me, you know, moving through these loops and these hoops. And then hopefully, you know, by allowing myself to continue running through them and picking up speed and momentum, that the membrane that I'm trying to move through can finally pop and break and we can move forward, right? Because that's what we all want to do. Um, and like for me and like my own experience, my lived experience right now, like I am so tired of not being able to keep up mentally like I used to. I am so tired of it. I'm tired of not being able to, you know, follow what I read as well as I used to. Not able to follow stories as well. It just makes it so that you end up, you know, not caring about keeping up with anything, and you lose that much more meaning in your life. So I guess this is another reason, you know, because in a twofold way, I find meaning through a great deal of my plant medicine work. So yeah, thanks for exploring this with me, everyone. It's kind of funny. Like again, I, you know, wanted to start this, and I was like, I don't really know how I'm gonna go about this, but we're just gonna, you know, shoot for it. So, um, but yeah, I'm just very thankful. I'm thankful for, you know, the people that are kind of becoming, you know, part of a community that are on this channel. And yeah, we got to do what we got to do. You know, all this being said, I, you know, encourage you to reflect on something that, you know, you feel that would be better for you, that is, you know, a private thing that you hold yourself back from because of, you know, certain other optics or maybe what other people think, you know, and explore that. That's why I share things in a very personal way, because one, I need to be more personal with myself, but it makes it easier for us to be raw and authentic with ourselves when we've seen somebody else do it and that same person encourages us to do so. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna go get myself some dinner, probably make some spaghetti if there's any left. But give me a like, give me a subscribe, feel free to share. I appreciate it. And be good to you, be good to others, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.